So we're talking about the fallout between Marjorie Taylor Greene and Donald Trump. You went on a tweet storm against Marjorie Taylor Greene Friday night into Saturday morning, but today was, of course, Sunday. And so Marjorie Taylor Greene went on the CNN Sunday morning show, and Dana Bash told her, hey, you denounced Donald Trump's nasty rhetoric, but if we're being fair and keeping score here, haven't you engaged in a lot of that nasty rhetoric herself, and do you regret that? And Marjorie Taylor Greene gave a surprisingly candid answer. So let's take a look.
X that President Trump is, with his comments, fueling a, quote, hotbed of threats against you. Obviously, any threats to your safety are completely unacceptable. But we have seen these kinds of attacks or criticism from the president at other people. It's not new. And with respect, I haven't heard you speak out about it until it was directed at you.
Dana, I think that's fair criticism, and I would like to say humbly, I'm sorry for taking part in the toxic politics. It's very bad for our country, and it's been something I've thought about a lot, especially since Charlie Kirk was assassinated, is that I'm only responsible for myself and my own words and actions, and I am committed, and I've been working on this a lot lately, to put down the knives in politics. I really just want to see people be kind to one another, and we need to figure out a new path forward that is focused on the American people, because as Americans, no matter what side of the aisle we're on, we have far more in common than we have differences. Yeah. And we need to be able to respect each other with our disagreements.
So just
See, that's a very smart answer. That plays very well to like normal fucking people. Yes, like that. That plays very well to psychologically healthy, ordinary people. And I appreciate that she mentioned the assassination of Charlie Kirk there, because I think, I'm not in her head, obviously, but I can glean from that answer that she had kind of a similar reaction to that than I did, which is the realization that, oh my God, after a horrible event like this, which could very easily plunge the country into a literal hot civil war, like things were that hot, things were that fragile in that moment. It was shocking to me to see how many people, how many prominent people in the government and in influential places within the media space, like Stephen Miller, like Matt Walsh, right, come out and just chomp at the bit to get the Civil War going. It's like they were ready for it. It's as if they always wanted a Civil War and were just waiting for the opportunity to strike, and they couldn't find a camera. That's the plan, exactly. They couldn't find the camera fast enough to say they hate us. There's no coexisting with these people. There's no unity with these people. We just have to crush them. And I think, and this is what I urged this at the time. I urged this on both sides, much to the displeasure of some on our side. I urge people not to take part in that, not to take that bait, because that is clearly the event that the oligarchs wanted to use to accelerate the collapse of society so that they can use their power, their capital, and their technology to build their dystopian future out of the ruins. And I think, gleaning from this answer, that she saw it that way as well, because she wasn't out there saying how we all need to kill each other. She was out there, basically. In fact, I think in the aftermath of the Charlie Kirk thing, she was the one who called for a national divorce, right? Now, I'm sure she wouldn't call for that now, but I think it's important to see her instinct was to just be like, hey, you know what? We don't want a civil war. We don't want violence. If there are irreconcilable differences between the states, maybe we should just live side by side as neighbors, not as one United States, so that we don't destroy each other violently. I'm pretty sure that was her take. I just thought of it now. Otherwise, I would have researched it and put it in the exhibit. I'll cut it if that's not the take, but I'm pretty sure that's what she said. And that's indicative of a certain instinct, an instinct for peace, an instinct for civility, an instinct for sanity. But that, unfortunately, is not shared amongst everyone. So let's take a look at Matt Walsh's response to this. Leftists celebrated Charlie Kirk's murder and then elected an AG who openly fantasizes about killing us and our children. And now Republicans are going on CNN to apologize for their toxic rhetoric. What the hell is going on? Blue Sky Libs says she ran out of roads to conservative power outside of the House. So like others before her, she has decided that being anti-Trump is the only option left. How did that work out for Cheney and Kinzinger? Same path. See her on Blue Sky soon. No, not the same path. Cheney and Kinzinger ran to the place that, frankly, Donald Trump is running to now, which is neocon foreign policy,
right,
post 9/11 surveillance. Like, actually, Donald Trump has become much more like Liz Cheney than Marjorie Taylor Greene. That's why there's the rift here. Mike Cernovich says, bendy the knee to the enemy. What, for talking about unity? For talking about civility? For talking about how, hey, you know what? We can disagree with each other without brutalizing each other. That's a message that appeals to most sane people. But in Cernovich's mind, that's surrender. So Marjorie Taylor Greene claps back and says, wrong. Jesus told his disciples, if you love me, you will obey my commands. Jesus commands us to forgive one another and even ties our own forgiveness to our willingness to forgive, as Jesus said in the Lord's Prayer. As he was being nailed to the cross, Jesus said, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. See, she's even, reaching out to the Jews. Obeying Jesus and forgiving and asking forgiveness is not bending the knee. It's walking in obedience to Christ our Lord and putting our faith into action. Nothing has changed about me except I refuse to continue to be a part of the evil, toxic insanity of the political industrial complex that is ripping our country apart. It's getting us nowhere and doesn't solve any of the problems facing my children's future.
Jesus. Marjorie Taylor Greene being the voice of reason was not on my bingo card this year.
No. That's what it comes to. Where did Dana Bash ask you for forgiveness, says Mike Cernovich? Where did any lib who incited death against Charlie Kirk ask for your forgiveness? See how just like they are just ready to fight. Like, tell me these people don't want to fight. Mm-hmm. Like they've just made up in their minds that this mass swell of people were out there celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. I would argue no reasonable person was cheering that on. But
no, there were people who were not willing, in the face of his death, to suddenly pretend they liked him,
right? Exactly,
or that he was a saint, right, or that they supported his views. That's not the same as celebrating. What are you guys going to say? What if somebody took out Hillary Clinton? What would you guys be saying?
What would you say? You loved her, yeah. Right? You would.
You guys would celebrate. Frankly.
You guys probably would celebrate. Yeah, you probably would celebrate. The mainstream opinion on the left was that we are not going to whitewash Charlie Kirk's legacy, but at the same time, we condemn, obviously, the violence that took his life. And I would argue that that is a completely reasonable take. But they didn't want that out there. These people clearly want the collapse of society. They hate America. Matt Walsh hates America. Mike Cernovich hates America. They don't like the current system. They see acceleration into collapse as a necessary precursor to building a new system that they like better than this one. Marjorie Taylor Greene actually likes America. She actually likes Americans. She likes American families. She wants Americans to be able to live peacefully and civilly, even as they disagree with other people. And she wants to implement her agenda, which is a right-wing agenda that I object on many issues. But she actually wants to implement that the old-fashioned way, through like winning debates and going through democratic systems, as opposed to collapsing the country into civil war and techno feudalism. So that's the difference there.
Yeah,
we're almost done. Let me just get through the last couple of these. Sean Farash says Marjorie Taylor Greene didn't get her way, so she ran to CNN and begged for acceptance from communists. Yeah, Dana bashed the communists. They're just delusional.
She's a real commie.
What a disgrace.
Foaming at the mouth Zionist, Dana Bash.
Here's Cat Turd, the most pitiful thing I've seen in years. And Cynthia Holt, here's a real beacon of class here. She's not one of us. She can go where she wants now, but she don't speak for MAGA anymore. She's been excommunicated. She can go sit next to, I can't say the word, but Schmaggot. Yeah, Rand Paul and Masshole, the cheating farm fucker. So that's the caliber of person who's having a meltdown about Marjorie Taylor Greene calling for some civility, right? Calling for some kind of normalcy, right? Accepting responsibility for having played a part in the toxic political culture, having the courage to say, I'm sorry. You don't really hear politicians ever just come out and say, I'm sorry.
No.
They'll say, I regret this, I regret that. Maybe, they usually couch it in some kind of way. To actually just come out and say, hey, you know what? That's a fair criticism. I humbly say that I'm sorry for that. That strikes most people as very refreshing and very encouraging at a time of such instability, right? She is presenting herself as a voice for civility, as a voice for stability in very uncertain times. And I think she's nailing it. Doesn't mean I like everything that she's about. I think she cowered at the last minute and voted for this big beautiful bill, which is going to have disastrous consequences for the kinds of people who she says she cares about so much. So look, I mean, she's flawed.
And she's not an idiot. No, you understood what that bill was going to do. Of course. And you voted for it.
Of course. So look, she's flawed. Mamdani is flawed. All these people are flawed. If you're gonna disqualify these people based on any one thing they did that you don't like, well, then you're not going to have much to talk about or much to evaluate, at least in this realm of political discourse. But in terms of this moment, she's nailing it. She's hitting the exact right notes, and she's making a fool out of all of these goons who just rage at her for standing by her principles as articulated by the MAGA movement until 3 months ago, and B, coming out of this saying, hey, you know what? As much as I'm principled, I also don't want to see the country burn. I don't want to see the American people eat each other alive over this because it's extremely destructive and extremely dangerous. And she is not only presenting herself very well, she is exposing all of these other ghouls for who they are, which are just people who very much want to see this country burn. They want to inflict, they want to see pain. They think pain is necessary. And I think she's doing very well.
Yeah, these people like Cernovich, Matt Walsh, they're really like the familiars in Blade, the people who worked with the vampires thinking they're going to be saved at the end because they helped them. Right. The oligarchs, they don't care about you. They don't care about you. Joe Rogan going out there being the Leni Riefenstahl of the oligarch class, thinking that's good, that in the end they're going to bring them into the bunker. Yeah, they do not care about you. They're using these, as Marjorie Taylor Greene says very clearly, paid propagandists to push an agenda that is ultimately the Curtis Yarvin agenda. And what does that agenda bring together? The worst elements of society. What do they want? They want a king. That's what Curtis Yarvin describes. It's a modern kingship. It's a CEO kind of vision of a monarchy. It's a new spin on monarchy. What do little fascist punks like Matt Walsh want? It's what they want. Some kind of theocratic Christian monarchy that can impose his vision of how people should live on society, whether they like it or not. Right. They are, as they scream about being anti-American or being traitorous, they are deeply traitorous and anti-American. They are a cancer on society. and people are waking up to that. Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene, what is smart about what she's doing? What's her sincerity? Look, I've made no secret of what I think about religion. But hey, if you take the Christian principles seriously and you live by them, well, that's not a bad way to live. That's not a bad philosophy to live by. And sometimes you do see people who are sincere Christians who will have moments like that somebody who's not driven by a deep faith would have, like apologizing that way. Because in the end, that doesn't really seem like politically calculated, because you know how many people you're gonna anger by apologizing on CNN of all places, right? I kind of take her at her word that that's partly driven by her religious faith. You will see if she's serious going forward by how she votes. I mean, that's where the rubber meets the road. Her and Thomas Massie have very credibly picked up the banner of what people who supported Trump thought they were supporting. And yeah, they're leaving Trump behind. Trump is, I believe, going to be remembered probably as the worst president in American history. And you're going to be hard pressed to find anyone who doesn't despise him, because he's going to wind up being despised by his own, which is going to, we have long said, yeah, Ellen is going to be dancing with Trump and, or the equivalent, just like they did with George Bush. I'm starting to think, no, there's not going to really be any momentum for rehabilitating Donald Trump. It would be like trying to rehabilitate Boss Tweed. Like, I just don't think that's going to happen in this particular case. He is not going to be able to settle into honored emeritus status. He's going to be deeply despised, assuming he lives. Like, he could, man, the guy likes cheeseburgers and he's pushing 80. Like, he could drop dead on any given day. But if he lives into a post-presidency, it's not going to be like any other post-presidency.
Well, one thing Marjorie Taylor Greene is, I'm sure, being honest about is when she says she's getting calls from people in her district telling her what they think of all this. And this is where I think, I think it's very possible, if not likely, that she was sincere in her regret for having, been such a vicious attack dog for Trump. I mean, I'm sure she regrets it now, because, see, an asshole is always a lot of fun to be friends with as long as they're directing their venom outward. But when they turn sideways and direct it at you, they're not so fun anymore, right? So I think some of it is
a lot
that.
of our fans have learned that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I think she certainly feels some regret there. So to the extent that it was calculation versus a sincere sentiment, who knows? But what I could tell you is that it is the politically smart thing to do.
Sure.
She understands how unpopular this administration is. In her home state of Georgia, they just had, I think, a utility commissioner race. It was some like bureaucratic bullshit position that was, it's basically the entire state votes to appoint people to this board or whatever it was. I forget what the exact title was. Democrats won it by 25 points. I think it was 62 to 37.
Right.
When did Democrats win statewide races in Georgia? Ever. Stacey Abrams couldn't even win in Georgia by 1 point. 25 points in Georgia. So she understands that, like, the smart thing to do at this point is just say you're sorry, change course as fast as you can. That is the politically smart move. And I think a lot of her colleagues understand that too, which is why I'm expecting, as is Mike Johnson,
Tuesday will be interesting.
Yes, a lot of votes to release the Epstein files. On Tuesday, you're going to find out just how much Donald Trump's stock has fallen within the Republican Party. And I think people are going to be very surprised to see that they get a lot of defections. A lot.
Please clap.